Welcome back to Street Writers.
That's 10 minutes of writing, motivation, inspiration, and activation.
And first off, it is take a swing at this.
And these are the tips and tricks and sleight of hand to power up your pencil and percolate your brain.
So I've got one that it's a big structural one this time out. And it's the idea behind, sometimes it's called Pixar's Guide to Writing. Mm-hmm. And but it actually goes back to this guy named Brian McDonald, and he had called it the story spine.
Right.
And if you're stuck, and how do you structure your story? Mm-hmm. It's a great baseline.
Right.
And the reason it's called the Pixar Guide currently is because a lot of people use this Finding Nemo example. So I'll give that, and then we'll kind of break it down.
Sure.
So it's really 6 steps, and it's once upon a time, there was something happens. And every day, kind of a normality happens. Mm-hmm. One day something different happens, and because of that something changes, because of that something changes, until finally, and then there's a resolution. So to give that some context, right, they use the Finding Nemo example. So once upon a time, there was a widowed fish named Marlin who was extremely protective of his only son Nemo, right? So you got your base. Mm-hmm. Every day, Marlin warned Nemo of the ocean's dangers and implored him not to swim far away.
Gotcha.
So, right, your classic story, this is where we are. Mm-hmm. But one day, in an act of defiance, Nemo ignores his father's warnings and swims into the open water. Okay. So now the situation has changed, right?
So the key word there is but.
But, exactly. But, touch the butt. He touched the butt. Mm-hmm. Because of that, he is captured by a diver and ends up in a fish tank of a dentist in Sydney. Right. And because of that, Marlin sets off on a journey to recover Nemo, enlisting the help of other sea creatures along the way. And then until finally, right, now you get to the resolution, Marlin and Nemo find each other, reunite, and learn that love depends on trust. Right. So if you're stuck, those 6 steps give you a baseline structure for a very classic but powerful story.
So it's the hero's journey boiled down.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it's kind of the hero is just going about his life. Once upon a time, he's just doing his thing. He's kind of happy with his life.
Absolutely.
Or he's accepted that this is always the way things are going to be. And then one day, some crazy shit happens. Right. And then another day, maybe he tries to not get sucked into the shit, but he does. Mm-hmm. But, and then you get into the, something drags him further until finally,
exactly.
He goes there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in that difference, in that finally section, in that classic hero's journey way, things have changed. Yes. Right? You do not go back to normality within a story because people want transformation. Right.
And you've learned something as the character, you've transformed, and then the audience is transformed.
Exactly. And as a writer, you've hopefully followed those characters or hopefully steered them in that way, because if you go back to where you were in the first place, who gives a shit about that story?
Then it didn't matter. All right, so let's do our exercise. I'm throwing some at you in left field. Okay, give me the first line.
The first line?
Yeah, the first thing. Once upon a time.
Oh, you're gonna. Yeah, it's improv.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna improv.
Once upon a time,
Mark and Dan were sitting in a laundry room recording Street Writers,
and every day they worried that the towels around them were gonna fall on their heads.
And then the next one is?
One day,
they did this, Street Writers, and somebody saw it and sued them because they ripped the shit out of Game of Thrones. That's coming.
All
That's coming.
All right. And because of that...
they lost their house.
Because of that.
But they got so famous on the web that they started a new political party, and they're now running for president or something like that.
Until finally they were able to purchase a decent recording studio. And
they use towels to wash themselves instead of hanging on the wall.
Exactly. This may be what gets cut out of the episode, but we'll see.
They beat us to the punch.
Now we are admiring the craft or being jealous of it.
Let's talk about, let's just jump on the Game of Thrones bandwagon, and that way we can say it in our promo and get people to listen to this.
Or turn away from it.
Or turn away from it. So we both read all the books, and then we watched all the shows, and I watched the ending and the final leading up to the endings, and didn't hate it. Now, Dan's got a club in his hand and is going to pound me, and... I know I'm in the minority because every review I read is like, what the hell happened? Twitter went crazy. The reason I did not hate it, I'm not saying I loved it, but two things. One is I think closing a series like that is absolutely brutally hard to do. Two, if I had forgiven them for the mistakes of the prior episode, which I didn't like at all, I was almost down at a point where I was scared of what the ending would be, and I didn't hate this ending, even though it was pablum and schmaltzy and a lot of stuff. Maybe just because I'm getting old and soft in my old age. All right, go.
I don't even know if I want to go, because we're calling this section "They Beat Us to the Punch." It's supposed to be something we're so jealous of.
Right.
And you are going into this with like, I didn't hate it. And I've heard you get so impassioned about other things and other examples.
The only reason I'm saying that is because I'm too much of a pussy to say that I actually liked it.
You can say that too. I'd rather you said that. Did you really like it?
I felt good because I got an ending, and
but you even in this, I'm gonna go after you more than I'm going after Game of Thrones right here, because you're even saying it's really hard to end a series, and it is.
Right.
But Breaking Bad, to me, an excellent ending.
Excellent ending.
The Shield, an amazing ending.
Okay.
The Wire, powerful ending.
Right.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
But you got a series here with all the money in the world.
Right.
Ostensibly a writer's room chock full of the top talents in Hollywood.
Right.
And I just stare at this screen for this last season, where I
Right.
went in with all goodwill.
Right.
Of like really being interested. How are you going to stick this landing?
Right.
And it's just one dramatic stupidity after another dramatic stupidity after another story structure stupidity of like just sitting there. And I hate that.
Right.
Breaking it out of the moment. Like we were talking a moment ago about the Pixar guide or the Story Spine guide, and the classic hero structure. And you can use that as a tool to get into something.
Right.
But when you watch a great movie or read a great book, those tenets are probably there.
Right.
But when it's done really well, you get lost in it.
Yeah.
It's when it's not being done so well that you and I or anybody else listening who's wanting to do this sits back and says, "Oh, I see the pieces.
Right.
I see the mechanics."
Right.
And that's a failure. And to me, we could go on episodes and I could pick apart things.
Right.
But the fact you are not as enthused about this as you are about other things in this section of this program says to me, I don't even need to kind of go off on.
But I hear you. I guess I liked it. I liked. First of all, I love that Tyrion.
The stupidest dwarf. Yeah. No, you want me to go off on that one now?
Well, we're going to continue this.
You tell me about his speech.
I like that he survived. I think he's been. I know. I'm soft. I'm old. I'm beat up. I love him. I think the sisters I really got a kick out of. I thought the Stark sisters were really cool. I like that she's leading the independent North. I think it was the only way they could get out of it, and I felt good. I felt good watching the end of it. Now, of course, now that I put on the writer's hat, I can't argue with anything you're saying. I can't argue with everything that everybody says.
Structurally, that was the only interesting thing to me, and it had to be pointed out to me, actually, maybe because I was just so distanced from it, was that the Starks, who seemed like they were out of play, really, by the end of the first season, ultimately did win the Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Which I did appreciate.
So you'll give me that.
I'll give you that.
I'll give you this. Okay, I will give you this. I want to write a story where I always have a character like Bran, where I could just make him sit there and do nothing, and every time, like I can say to you right now, Dan, we're in this laundry room because it was meant to be.
Exactly.
That we're in
exactly.
This laundry room.
It's like
so. It was like I want that. That's the go to jail, get out of jail free card right there.
It's just a cryptic bullshit that you say.
Hit us with your best shot.
We'd like you to send us what you got and get in the ring with us, but in the meantime, we're still just bringing our goods.
Yep.
Mark?
Yeah, so over the summer, I'm going to shoot a film of mine. It's a nice little story that takes place either in a bar or a coffee shop, and it's a little bit of a con game, a little bit of a Ponzi scheme, which is so easy today. I mean, when I wrote this 8-10 years ago, I thought this was going to be cutting edge, but we all know all the Ponzi schemes and all the ways you can have your identity stolen and stuff.
So when you do these, does your mind change a lot when you get behind the camera, or when you're looking at it as a director? Do you sometimes criticize the writer?
I think because I pushed the writing so hard for years, and then the shoot is so fast, that by the time the writing has gotten to the point where we're shooting it, I'm kind of happy with where it is. But that being said, an actor brings something new to a part, and because you're confident in where you are, you could be confident enough to say, oh, that's funnier. Let's do that. The thing that I find is doing storyboards lets me look at lines differently. And so I could have another kind of step from that writing and in that storyboard phase being able to say, ooh, now that I see what I want to get to, it's a little easier.
Yeah. That's it for now. Contact us at streetwriters.podcast@gmail.com with your questions, comments, material you're working on, or tips on writing. Tell your friends to listen, and their friends too.
And remember to take it to the streets
and fight to write.